The NFL preseason, it always brings this incredible hum of anticipation, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. That mix of fresh hope, maybe some new narratives starting up.
And for a few franchises, those ever-present question marks, they just seem to follow them year after year.
Yep. Some teams just live under that cloud.
And this season, those questions feel particularly weighty for one team in particular. So today, we are taking a deep dive into the 2025 New York Jets season.
Gangrene. Lots to talk about there.
Our mission here is to cut through all the noise, the training camp reports, the roster churn, the coaching philosophy shifts, and give you a really crystal clear picture of what the Jets are actually facing this year.
Yeah, we want to equip you with the crucial insights so you feel genuinely well-informed.
Exactly. Whether you're a diehard fan, maybe just a curious observer, or someone prepping for your fantasy draft even.
And to do that, we've pulled from, well, a pretty comprehensive stack of sources.
We really have everything from sports brackets for schedules, odds, stuff like that, Walter Football and NBC Sports for some really in-depth team and fantasy previews.
Uh-huh. We've also got CDSSports.com looking at the betting analysis, plus Defector and NFL.com for those broader perspectives and training camp updates.
So it's a complete landscape we've mapped out for you. We're aiming to highlight not just what happened, but really why it matters for the season ahead.
Let's get into it then. Where are they coming from?
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that. The 2024 season was, well, to put it mildly, a story of profound disappointment.
That's one way to put it. 5-12.
We all remember that 5-12 record, a performance that led to an almost universal burn it all down kind of sentiment,
Totally understandable. And then the whole Aaron Rodgers saga.
Right. 2 seasons, largely disappointing. His first year basically lost to injury. And it all ended with his departure to the Steelers.
And there were those whispers, too, about his reported influence on team decisions. Kind of hinted at maybe a broader culture issue going on.
Yeah, it definitely felt like more than just on-field stuff.
But what's truly fascinating here, I think, is just the sheer scale of the reset that followed.
A complete overhaul.
Exactly. That 5-12 finish wasn't just statistically bad. It was riddled with this systemic inability to close games out.
Oh, those fourth quarters were painful.
They blew 6 fourth-quarter leads, which, by the way, was an NFL high. And they lost an astonishing 11 games where they had a legitimate shot at a game-winning drive.
11 games. That's staggering.
It really is. And that pattern, it reveals something deeper than just a single player or position, right? It points to a fundamental fragility, maybe a mental thing, strategic flaw. It required a complete overhaul far beyond just swapping out the quarterback.
And that overhaul, like you said, started right at the top. The offseason saw huge changes to the leadership structure.
Big time.
They brought in a new head coach, Aaron Glenn, formerly the Lions defensive coordinator, their DC.
Yep. Familiar face back in New York? Sort of.
A new general manager, too, Darren Moogie. New offensive coordinator, Tanner Engstrand, who was also with the Lions as their passing game coordinator.
Following Glenn over.
And a new defensive coordinator, Steve Wilks, previously with the 49ers. It's a completely brand new brain trust running the show.
It really is. And if we look at the philosophy driving this new era, Aaron Glenn seems central. He's a big proponent of moving in silence.
Interesting phrase. What does that mean in practice?
Well, it seems to mean emphasizing a return to basics, building a physical team, focusing on a run-focused offense. He's explicitly trying to avoid those big splash additions that kind of defined the Rodgers era, maybe.
So less noise, more substance.
That seems to be the idea. And it's interesting, too, that Glenn, who was actually a Jets first-round pick himself way back when.
Right, I remember that.
He won't be calling defensive plays. He's entrusting that to Wilks.
Okay, letting his coordinator coordinate.
Exactly. And Engstrand's offensive style, it's described as physical and aggressive, designed to get its best playmakers in space, and they're specifically talking about adapting it to Justin Fields.
Which makes sense given Fields' skill set. But what about that comment Glenn made? Is it a passing league? That raised some eyebrows.
It did spark some debate, yeah. On one hand, you could see it as like a dedication to foundational football, building from the ground up.
Old school tough.
Kind of. But in today's NFL, where analytics heavily favor passing efficiency, well, it raises an important question, doesn't it? Is this philosophy maybe a little out of step with modern offense?
Yeah.
Or is it actually a bold counter move? We'll have to see.
That's a great point. So, okay, new brain trust, this moving in silence philosophy, how have they actually started to sculpt the team? Who's in, who's out? What does it signal for this new gangrene?
Well, the departures were significant beyond just Rodgers.
Yeah, Devontae Adams is gone too, obviously tied to Rodgers. Tight end Tyler Conklin, he's now a Charger. Offensive lineman Tyron Smith, gone.
Defensive end Solomon Thomas, out.
Hmm.
And outside linebacker Hassan Reddick, who some reports called a bust signing after only getting 1.0 sack in 10 games.
That didn't work out. And some longtime fixtures, too. Linebacker C.J. Mosley is gone. Cornerback D.J. Reed signed with the Lions.
A lot of familiar faces heading out.
Yeah.
So to fill those pretty big gaps and really align with this new coaching philosophy, the Jets made some key veteran additions.
Okay, who came in?
At quarterback, obviously, Justin Fields, a player with, a high ceiling, but also a lot to prove.
The centerpiece of the offseason, really.
For sure. On offense, they added wide receiver Josh Reynolds and tight end Stone Smart. To bolster the O-line, they brought in Chukwuma Okorafor and Josh Myers.
Shoring up the trenches.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And on defense, they picked up defensive tackle Derek Gennady, cornerback Brandon Stevens, and safety Andre Cisco. These moves, you noticed, they weren't really about chasing headlines.
No, more like plugging specific holes.
Right. Filling specific needs, building a roster that hopefully fits Glenn's back-to-basics vision.
And what about the draft? The 2025 NFL draft class. They didn't pick a QB, which was maybe a surprise to some, but the class itself has been getting really high grades across the board.
Yeah, very well-regarded draft.
Their first-round pick, 7th overall, was offensive tackle Armand Membou from Missouri. He's described as having ridiculous upside and elite athleticism.
Huge potential there.
Yeah, he could potentially form a really formidable bookend tackle pairing with second-year left tackle Olu Fashanu. That's a massive investment up front.
It absolutely is. And
Yeah.
the draft class really shows that clear focus, strengthening both lines and adding specific skill players.
Who else did they grab?
Beyond Membo, they took tight end Mason Taylor from LSU in the second round.
Yeah.
Then cornerback Azariah Thomas from Florida State in the third.
Okay.
And then wide receiver Arian Smith from Georgia and safety Malachi Moore from Alabama, both in the fourth round.
So spreading the picks around different positions.
Yeah, and that tight end, Mason Taylor, the pass-catching guy from LSU, he's got a strong chance to bring a spark to that offense. Could even be, a significant fantasy contributor. Maybe a top 8 fantasy tight end as a rookie.
Wow, that'd be huge for them.
It would. And what's really impressive is the consensus grading. New York's first 5 picks all scored A or higher. All 7 selections got at least a B+I.
That sounds like a very successful draft weekend, on paper at least.
It suggests really good value, good talent acquisition, and potential for the long term.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting, right? And maybe the biggest gamble of this whole new era, the Justin Fields experiment.
The elephant in the room.
He's stepping in as QB, and while, look, he undeniably has plenty of talent, that 4.4 speed is certainly eye-popping.
Oh yeah, the athleticism is off the charts.
But his struggles as a passer in the pros, they're pretty well documented. Now, he did have a winning record as a starter, 4-2 with the Steelers last year, which is something.
True, in limited action.
So the big question for the Jets isn't just, can he throw? It feels more like, can he consistently throw when it truly matters most? In those high-pressure late-game situations? It just feels like a massive bet on potential overproven performance at the NFL level.
You've absolutely hit on the core tension there. Fields presents a really high variance situation. His performance metrics, well, they paint a concerning picture in some areas.
Like what?
Like he's 0-22 as a starter when his team allows more than 20 points.
0-22.
Yeah.
Wow.
And maybe even more stark, he has a 2-18 record in fourth quarter comeback opportunities, which is among the worst in NFL history.
That's worrying, especially given last year's issues.
Exactly. It connects directly back to the Jets' 2024 struggles, blowing those 6 fourth-quarter leads. It's a significant concern when your quarterback struggles to win games where the defense isn't perfect or when he needs to lead that critical late-game drive.
And his sack rate, too, right? Didn't I see something about that?
Yeah, his career sack rate is 11.9%. That's the highest among active players.
Yeah.
So holding on to the ball too long, maybe O-line issues following him, it's a factor.
Plus, there was something about a toe injury in camp, and Tyrod Taylor stepping in.
Right. There was mention of a lingering toe issue, and Tyrod Taylor did get some first-team reps.
Yeah.
So health and depth at QB are definitely still relevant factors to monitor as the season goes on.
Okay, so if Fields is that big question mark, potentially high ceiling but definite risks, how are the other skill positions shaping up to support him?
Well, Garrett Wilson's importance just cannot be overstated.
Especially after that big extension, 4 years, $130 million.
Exactly. He's the proven #1 target. No question there.
And Breece Hall. Running back came off what some people call a down year last season.
Yeah, maybe by his standards,
Yeah,
but he's
fine.
now entering a contract year. So he's clearly motivated to prove he can carry the load for this offense, be that bill cow back.
Needs a big year for his next deal.
For sure. And the offensive line's potential, that's a huge storyline for this team. Absolutely crucial to Glenn's run-focused philosophy.
Right, got to run the ball if that's the plan.
It should be healthy, new, and improved, hopefully, with that promising young tackle duo of Fashanu and Membo.
Fingers crossed on healthy.
Big time. And Elijah Vera Tucker, the guard,
Yeah.
he's incredibly talented and versatile. He's also crucial. But that extensive injury history is a real concern the team will have to manage carefully.
Seems like a theme with their O-line lately.
It has been. But if this line, if they can finally stay healthy, it could absolutely pave the way for a top 5 rushing offense, which, again, is a core tenet of Aaron Glenn's strategy.
Okay, so potential for a strong run game, but what about the receivers beyond Wilson?
That's where it gets a bit thinner. Beyond Wilson, the wide receiver core is still described as having middling options,
You mean?
meaning there aren't many other proven consistent threats right now. Though, like we mentioned, rookie tight end Mason Taylor could certainly provide a needed spark in the passing game if he develops quickly.
Okay, so potentially strong rushing offense, definite number 1 receiver, question mark at QB, depth concerns at receiver. That's one side of the ball.
Pretty much sums it up.
What about the defense? That's typically been the Jets' strength, their calling card, but it showed some cracks last season.
It definitely regressed in 2024, dropped down to 20th in points allowed, and maybe more troublingly, 31st in run defense.
31st. That's bottom of the barrel, not Jets-like at all.
Not at all. Now, Quinnen Williams, he remains the team's best player up front. No
Right.
doubt. 3-time Pro Bowler, anchor of that D-line.
Still a beast.
Absolutely. The edge rush tandem of Jermaine Johnson, who's coming back from a torn Achilles,
Get healthy.
and Will McDonald IV, who actually had a team-high 10.5 sacks in 2024. That's key.
Yeah.
And they added D.T. Harrison Phillips for some interior help, too.
So pieces are there up front. What about the back end?
Well, the regression of the defense, particularly that run defense, is a major concern, especially given the team's intended identity, right?
Yeah.
They want to be physical.
Can't be physical if you can't stop the run.
Precisely. And the secondary also saw some notable dips, especially Sauce Gardner.
Really? After 2 All-Pro seasons?
Yeah. Reports say he struggled with inconsistent coverage and terrible tackling in 2024, which was surprising. He'll need to return to that elite form for the defense to truly anchor this team like they need it to.
That's a big storyline to watch. And they lost DJ Reed, too.
They did. That's a significant loss. And the guy they brought in, new cornerback Brandon Stevens, apparently struggled in Baltimore last year. So there are legitimate questions about the depth and reliability of the cornerbacks opposite Gardner.
So it raises a really important question then. Can this defense, under a new coordinator in Steve Wilks, truly recapture its elite status? Can it be that dominant, game-changing unit this team probably needs it to be to contend?
Their ability to carry a, let's say, potentially grinded-out offense is going to depend heavily on it. They need that defense to be great again.
Okay, so we've assessed the team, the pieces, the philosophy. Let's talk about how they're actually going to fare against the rest of the league. The schedule.
All right, rubber meets the road time.
Preseason officially kicks off with the Hall of Fame game July 31st. Then most teams play 3 additional games. For the Jets specifically, their preseason slate is at Green Bay, at the Giants, and then home against the Eagles.
Local rivalry game in there.
Yeah, always fun. The regular season kicks off September 4th league-wide. The Jets open their season against the Pittsburgh Steelers on September 7th.
Rodgers' old team facing Fields' old team. Interesting matchup.
Ah, good point. And hey, for any fans listening who like to travel, the Jets are playing an international game in London this year.
Bit of a trip for Gang Green.
Yeah.
Now, that regular season schedule, it certainly presents some immediate challenges.
How so?
Well, they face a really tough September. Games against 2024 playoff teams right off the bat. Steelers, Bills, Tampa Bay. That could be a real test of this new regime's mettle right out of the gate.
No easing into it then.
Not really. However, there does look to be an easier stretch later in the season. Weeks 13 through 17, they play teams that all missed the postseason last year.
Ah, so that could be crucial.
Absolutely crucial. Could be for building momentum if they start slow, or maybe making a late season push if they're somehow still in the hunt.
And fans need to remember about flex scheduling too, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Between weeks 5 and 10, and then again from 11 to 17, game times can shift. The league wants the best matchups in prime time. So you got to stay updated on the schedule. It might change.
Good reminder. Okay, so given all these variables, the new coach, Fields, the schedule quirks, how does the betting market see this team? What are the odds saying?
Well, let's just say the market isn't exactly betting the house on a Jets Super Bowl run.
Shocking, I know.
They're
Yeah.
considered a real Super Bowl long shot. Odds are ranging somewhere between plus 20,000 and plus 25,000,
Which means,
which basically means a $100 bet would win you somewhere between $20,000 and $25,000. So yeah, a true long shot.
okay, maybe not Super Bowl. What about just wins? The win total over under?
That line, the predicted number of wins where you bet if they'll go over or under, it's set between 5.5 and 6.5 wins, depending on the sportbook.
5.5 or 6.5 wins. So pretty low expectations.
And yeah, they are quite clearly favored to miss the playoffs again. No surprise there.
The market seems to reflect that high variance you mentioned.
It really does. You could see the arguments both ways, right? On the reasons to back the Jets, the overside, well, Rodgers is gone. Maybe that's a clean slate. Fields has undeniable motivation to prove himself. That late season schedule looks favorable. The O-line should be improved. And there's still a decent talent base on defense, despite the regression.
Okay, reasons for optimism, maybe hitting 6 or 7 wins.
But the reasons to fade the Jets, to bet the under, they're just as compelling, if not more so. Fields' unproven passing ability is huge. Head coach Aaron Glenn is unproven in that role. The defensive regression last year is worrying. There's still some lingering roster holes.
And the big one.
And of course, that notorious longest active playoff drought in major North American professional sports. 14 seasons now. That hangs over everything.
It really does. Are there specific predictions out there?
Projections are honestly pretty conflicting. Walter Football gives them a ceiling of 7-10, which feels maybe a bit optimistic.
Yeah, 7 wins seems like a decent outcome, maybe.
Whereas Scott Kaczmar, another analyst, is predicting under 5.5 wins, so polar opposites.
Wow. Any specific bets people are recommending?
CBSSports.com actually recommends taking the over 5.5 wins at Najit 155 odds, meaning you'd have to bet $155 to win $100. So they see value there, thinking 6 wins is achievable.
Interesting. Confidence in avoiding absolute disaster, maybe.
Seems like it. And they also recommend betting Justin Fields over 600.5 rushing yards at Nagshable's 115 odds, which shows the market is definitely buying into the idea of a more competitive Fields-led run offense using his legs.
Makes sense. Utilize his strengths. So bringing it all together, what does this all mean for you, the listener, as you follow the Jets this year?
Well, it frames the 2025 season not just as a series of games, right?
Hmm?
But as this fascinating experiment.
Yeah, lots of what ifs.
Exactly. One with potentially wild swings, really high variance, so many questions waiting to be answered on the field. It's a season that really could define the direction of the Jets for the next few years.
It feels pivotal even if expectations are low.
Precisely. This season really embodies a fascinating tension. You've got the Jets, who have decisively, maybe necessarily, hit the reset button.
Wipe the slate clean.
They're aiming for this quiet, culture-driven rebuild. They're banking on a mobile quarterback, hoping for a strong defense to return to form. But there are significant lingering questions. Fields' development as a passer, the depth of their receiving core beyond Garrett Wilson, and maybe most importantly, their fundamental ability to finally close out games, that weakness that just absolutely plagued them last year.
Can they win the close ones? That feels like the biggest hurdle.
It really does. And when we look at the broader context, you just can't ignore that historical burden.
Yeah.
The longest active playoff drought in major North American pro sports. 14 seasons?
It's brutal for the fan base.
It is. And with so many variables this year, new coach, new QB, major roster turnover, maybe this season isn't really about making a deep run into the 2026 NFL playoffs. Maybe that's not the realistic goal right now.
So what is the goal then?
Perhaps it's simply about laying a solid, quiet foundation, showing progress, building something sustainable.
So the real question for you, the loyal fan, or maybe just the curious observer out there, is whether this moving in silence approach, this focus on basics and physicality, will that finally be the one to break that notorious streak? Will it finally shift the narrative for this franchise?
Or is it just another step in what often feels like a perpetually chaotic cycle for the New York Jets? That's what we're all waiting to find out.